So, educator, Drew Kern, hard surface flooring specialist, Infinity Claims Management Solutions. Drew has been in the flooring industry since 1999. He has owned and managed a successful retail business as well as installed a wide variety of flooring products. Since 2008, he has been an active member of many NWFA, that would be National Wood Flooring Association, committees, advisory panels, guest speaker, instructor, and has served as a CP board member, being certified as an inspector through several agencies and having an in-depth knowledge of the manufacturing and distribution sectors. Drew is an expert in the flooring industry who primarily teaches, consults, and manages flooring claims through his company, Infinity Claims Management Solutions. Drew, your reputation precedes you, my friend. Please carry on.
Well, thank you very much for that introduction. We're going to just get started here right away. I've developed this claims presentation for everybody in the business. So whether you're a manufacturer, a retailer, a builder, a sales rep of some sort, it doesn't matter. If you're in the flooring business, you're likely at one time of your life going to deal with a claim. And it might even be proportionate on your sales. If your sales are high, you're going to have more number of claims. Hopefully the percentage stays low for you. But what I find in this business is a lot of these claims can be handled quickly, properly, and put out. And when I get involved, I shake my head going, well, we shouldn't even be here right now if it was handled properly. So I put together this presentation to hopefully help people assist in managing a claim so it doesn't get big and out of hand, and to reduce your stress and your role in handling the claim. So what is your role? Are you the manufacturer? Are you the fellow that put it in? Are you the builder of the home? That's very important, because if you're the manufacturer, really, you're only concerned if there's a manufacturing defect to your product, and that's understandable. You got to identify your role and why are you showing up at the table of this claim. I have to mention, we have to understand the position of the end user. No different than if you were the consumer and you had a complaint about your product. You want it handled, you wanted it fixed. Even if you're told that's normal. We don't want to hear that, but that's one of the answers. Whenever we get involved in a claim, let's be as unbiased as possible. Let's take the emotions out of it and the people out of it and be as unbiased and objective as possible. We also want to speak the truth and take responsibility where we can. Some of you that have been to claims and been involved in claims, you've always heard the installer say, well, it can't be my fault. I do it like this all the time. Well, this is where we have to look into it. And part of this program is going to show you how to dive into that and figure out how to accomplish who's responsible. Know the claims procedures of your company. This could be filling out a claims form and bringing it back to your claims personnel or your boss. And then we want to be fact-based. We do not want to have opinions. I'm going to give you a few examples of some opinions as we go along with this. And another thing, always follow up. Customers get angry when there's no follow-up involved. What are the procedures? When a homeowner calls with a concern, treat it as being important. It is important to them. We want to gather as much information about the floor. And here's something really, really important. We have to start a file. What do I mean by that? I don't care if it's a dirty napkin on your office desk. That's your file. Put a date on it, put what you did. If you want, start an actual file folder and put it away. Why am I suggesting this? How do you know if this claim is going to go to court or not? The answer is you don't know. So because you don't know how big this file is going to get, and you think, oh, I'll remember that I was there today. No, you won't. So start a file. Hopefully, the file is closed and solved by Friday, but you don't know if you're still going to be dealing with this in 2 or 3 years from now. Deal with it promptly. That also shortens the process. And reply to the claim. Give them progress updates. Tell them what's happening. Okay, this is a very important slide. Some of you have been on my training in the past and have seen this slide before. This is important. This is where the investigation begins. This slide is also going to help you relax, not be so stressful when you're analyzing the facts and going out on these claims. We're really trying to find out which category it falls into. So there's a concern with a floor, you go out. Is it a manufacturing defect? Is it installation related? Is it site related? I've had some that were incorrectly specified. You've got a residential product put into this restaurant and it's not holding up. Well, of course it's not. It's not designed to. And then there's the one that the end users don't like. It's an invalid concern. It's normal. It's the way it should be. Now, before I leave this slide, I want to say it could also be a couple of these together. It doesn't have to be just one or the other. It could be a manufacturing defect that's not installed properly. Now you got two parties that are responsible. Keep that in mind when we're talking about this slide. And I may refer back to this if I'm answering any questions or giving examples. So this is a great slide if you want to snap a picture with your cell phone or remember this slide.
Hey, Drew, what do you think about expectations being added to that list? Because the salespeople
expectations
off if they don't.
Yeah, expectations. We can talk the next 2 hours on that, but this is not going to happen. Expectations is an invalid concern. But now if it's oversold, or what I'm dealing with right now is something that has written documentations that are incorrect, that's going to go back to the manufacturer. But very good point, Chris, that expectations, and we're particularly talking about grading of a wood product. They look at a sample and they get a different floor. Well, this is where something you can investigate. It's a problem. It's a concern. You go in, investigate it. You give them the answer if it meets standard or it doesn't meet standard. I'm going to cut through the next slides really quick because I want to get to the meat of this. But some of the claim details that you're going to get is the customer information, name, address. And if the guy owns several rental properties or commercial properties, it might be different from their home address. And when I say home, I'm talking about their main business address. Considering the customer's expectations of the process. So there's a claim going on. If you need a day or two, tell them that. But don't tell them a day or two if you need 3 weeks. Tell them if testing is going to happen. I get involved where they actually say, we're going to bring in a third party. You will be getting a phone call from a third party. And don't make any false promises at the point of sale. There's your expectation on the product. Yeah, this floor won't scratch or dent. Well, they do. Product information. I don't think you can handle a claim properly without knowing who the manufacturer of the product is, because you can't research what the expectation and what that product is designed to do. So get as much information on the product as possible, quantity to square footage, and then any other components of that floor. So not just the floor covering, the adhesives, the fasteners, the underlayments, the leveling compounds, any other sealers, maintenance, anything about that floor, you want to gather that information. The statement of concern. This is the complaint. This is very, very important, and it has to be clear from the beginning, because we only want to address the concern set forth. Now, certified inspectors know this, but this has to be done at the claims level too. For you guys out there in the flooring business that have had many, many years underneath your belt and have gone to claims, in your mind, how many times have you gone to a claim for a particular a scratched floor, that you get there and the floor is all cupped and there's other issues going on? All the time, because we look down at the floor, we can see what's going on. Do not raise those issues. Ask specifically, what is your concern with this floor, and only address that concern. You can take notes, you can document other issues, but don't open up any other cans of worms.
Obviously, that's specifically for inspectors.
No, it's for all claims people, because what I find is somebody goes in on a grading complaint and say, well, I don't like the grade of my floor. There's dark boards and light boards. And somebody goes in there and puts magnets on the floor looking for a nailing schedule or an expansion space. What's that got to do with the grading complaint, when you now just determined that the installer didn't do a good job putting in the floor, and that was not a complaint before? So don't open up a new concern by doing tests or something that you notice. Only address what you're looking at, what the homeowner's complaint is.
So, well, I guess my point is, if I'm a manufacturer's rep and I've gotten a call to go out to site to deal with a problematic product, I'm not going to get to ignore 3 out of the 4 complaints just because one of them was identified. I've got to do something with the other 3, otherwise the homeowner's going to throw me out.
Okay, good point. Good point. You can investigate it. You can collect the data, can document it. You can take photos. But when you're coming back to the office to deal with the claim, an inspector is going to do an independent report, or you're going to report back only on the concern. But in your notes and in your observations, you noticed all these other things. So I didn't say don't test for or take notes of. You're only addressing the concern in the complaint. Does that make sense to you?
Yes. Yeah. All
Okay.
good.
I just don't want to mislead people. So I thank you for asking that question and clearing that up. That's good. Thank you. The claim details, we're continuing with this, and the timeline. I find this critical. I find that a lot of my answers are in the timeline when I'm dealing with the complaint. So this is an example of some timelines that I'm looking for. When was the product purchased? The main dates that I'm looking at here is the installation date. When was the floor installed? When were the concerns noticed? And I'll give you 2 examples. If a floor was installed on Monday and cupped by Wednesday, it has a different answer than if the floor was installed in January and cupped in August. Same problem, same concern, but your timeline puts the responsibility onto somebody else. So sometimes your answer is right here in the timeline. So it's important to get these dates. Get the full history on the floor. Who was at the site visit with you? Have any repairs been done to the floor? Has any part of the floor been replaced? Have there been any events in the house, floods, furnace breakdowns? Identify who the stakeholders are, who has skin in the game here. All this in the history that you have to kind of bring forward, either to rule out or to rule in. Once you find out this information on the floor, even though they're not present at the site visit, doesn't mean they're not a stakeholder, but they should be contacted to get their perspective or their side of things. So you go into a home, you're the manufacturer. You go into the home and you hear the story from the homeowner. Call the builder if it's a new home. Call the installer. You might get a separate story. The installer might say, well, I took moisture readings. I told them I couldn't install the floor, but they told me to install it anyways because they had company coming. So I did. Well, that's a piece of information you're not going to get from the homeowner. All these other people, it's amazing what you're going to find. Collect and record all data. We talked about who is present. You're going to ask questions. You're going to document any statements. You're going to take notes, and you're going to take pictures. Pictures say 1,000 words. I have spoken to other people who actually don't take notes. They only take pictures. And it perplexes me going, well, you go on your pictures. Well, you do need notes. You can't take a picture of a statement. You can't take a picture of certain things you just can't take a picture of. But pictures, you can show people, or you can look back at your pictures and go, oh, I missed something, and go back at a photo and have a look. And you're going to do any testing if applicable. Now, the site
Any
visit.
comments on video, Drew?
Oh, a good point. Video. Do you mean video an interview, taking statements, or videoing a floor? Or both?
Not a deposition, no.
Okay. If you're going to videotape a statement, I'm going to suggest to you that they're not going to tell you the truth. They're going to edit what they say because they're being recorded. I find that you don't get the truth if you're going to record an interview. Now, recording a floor, absolutely. It's part of taking pictures, because if you got a noisy floor or a moving floor, a video, and we can take videos very easy today. When I started in this business, no, the equipment was too big to carry around. But now we all have cell phones, and you can actually take a picture of a noisy floor, a video of a noisy floor.
As you, like I've done it myself, but as you walk across a noisy floor with your smartphone, whether it's an iPhone or whatever, on and recording the noise as well as the visual, do you find that stands up in court? Is that okay to do that? because you're literally
Yes,
recording
absolutely.
the creaks and squeaks underfoot.
Absolutely, it stands up in court, but there's a little bit more to court, and you have to come out of my other training classes to learn a little bit more about the court and stuff. But everything has to be qualified as evidence. So if there's objection to that evidence, then it won't stand up. The evidence has to be qualified. When was that recording made? Was it recorded by you? Are there any changes or deletions to that recording? Um,
And
was it in the disclosure?
you're not going to be able to speak to quantifying the noise. Like you won't have a decibel count, right? So they could potentially discredit you.
No, but there's a difference between a squeak and a creak and a crackle and a snap. So it depends what you're hearing. If I'm walking across a wood floor and I'm hearing snap, 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 that's different
It says something
than
about the complaint. Yeah.
it says something that the complaint is valid. Or the judge is going to look at this going, I wouldn't want my floor at home to sound like that. So
Right.
can you take the video? Yes, you have the video. Whether it's admissible in court or not, doesn't matter. You have it.
Let them find out. Yeah.
So
Good point.
So the site visit is you only want to go once. So collect as much information from that site visit, which would be videos, photos, notes, etc. Take a picture of the furnace because what does the average salesperson know about a furnace? Not a lot. But if you take the picture of the furnace and show somebody and they say, well, that's a forced air gas, but I don't see a humidifier on that furnace. I don't see any air conditioning on that furnace. Oh, interesting. Um, so it could help by having the picture and showing somebody. But what I want to say about the site visit is a lot of people get stressed out about going to a site visit, especially manufacturers and dealers, because they think they're going to get put on the spot. If you're a manufacturer, a home builder, a dealer, don't stress going to the site visit. You are not there to give a conclusion. You are only there to collect data. And if you're put on the spot, you say that. You say, excuse me, ma'am, I'm sorry, I'm not here to give a conclusion. I don't know the answer yet. I'm here to collect data. I'm here to have a look at the floor. I'm here to get some information from you, and we will get back to you with a reply. So don't stress about going out, going, oh, I don't know how to answer this question. I don't know. What do I say to the homeowner? The answer is nothing. Say that you're going to get back to them. And then your stress level goes right down. And you're less chance of making a mistake at a site visit if you know you don't have to make a conclusion. Job site information, relative humidity, temperature, and moisture content readings. So some of this would be a higher end for inspectors or people who are familiar with taking testing. But I am going to say one thing to almost everybody on this call, and I can't think of very many exceptions. Builder, retailer, installer, doesn't matter who you are, when you're going to a complaint, every single visit, get the relative humidity reading. Relative humidity readings are easy to take. They're relatively accurate. They're only of that moment in time versus moisture content readings. Too many variables with your meter, species, type of floor, goes on and on. What are we asking the homeowner to maintain? Moisture content in the floor? No, relative humidity. So if you go out there, if you go, let's say you do 6 visits, again, on your first visit, you don't know you're going back again. But if you tell me, well, in January, I got 12% relative humidity in this house. By the time the third party inspector gets called in, it'll be June or July. He's going to get a reading of 50, 58%. But in the claim history, when were you in this home? When did you attend? January? Yeah. What was your relative humidity? 15%. Thank you. I need to write that down. So get relative humidity readings. If you don't have a hygrometer, go out and get it today.
Drew, are you concerned about where you place the hygrometer? At floor level or above, or does that enter into?
Not overly. Not overly. I am concerned that you don't store this hygrometer in the glove box of your car because it does need to be acclimated to the condition. Of course, inspectors will do it at floor level. If I see one sitting on a counter, I'm okay with that. They have even the best relative humidity, the best hygrometers have a 2% plus or minus. That's 4%, 2% either way, accuracy. It's a point of time. The relative humidity is changing every hour in somebody's house. From this morning, 6 o'clock this morning, we wake up, people move around, open and close doors, weather changes. So It's only a snapshot, and a close relative humidity reading is good enough. Places to get it when it's delivered, stored, installation, and at time of any inspection that you go out. Job site information. What type of installation is this? We're going to get to this later on. Type of subfloor, type of use. So I would turn around and say, this is a nail down glue assist floor on an OSB subfloor in a residential home. Environmental conditions would be the HVAC system, and I'd have my readings. It's a 2-level home with a basement, so there's your grade level. Window coverings and direction of windows. Take notes, take pictures, because that might be part of the claim, but it might not be. But it's always good to have that in your file, in your documents. Exterior conditions. We're dealing with this less and less, but back in our solid wood days, or when there's a solid wood floor, are the doors and windows siding complete? Is the place livable? Gutters and downspouts grading away from the house. I've had sprinkler systems causing issues. I've had sidewalks sloping into the house. I got dozens of pictures of all these different problems that are bringing water into the house. By the time you get there, some of this might have been rectified. The floor was installed, then they did the outside landscaping, and then they called you in. So this evidence would be gone. But that's only if it's moisture related. Maintenance programs. Is there any written maintenance program? That would be on commercial products. Homeowners, ask them what product they use. They're going to tell you water and vinegar and a steamer. Okay, write it down. How often are the floors cleaned? Is there a contract cleaning service? That's like a cleaning service that comes in once a week and cleans the house. Have the homeowners been away for any extended periods of time, vacations? Because maintenance is maintaining the conditions. It's not only just cleaning the floor. Maintenance is a big, big topic, from cleaning to maintaining the environment to putting protectors on your chairs. These are all maintenance issues with the floor. I told you we get to method of installation. We want to obtain as much details of the installation as possible. But you don't have to know if it's right or wrong. So you're looking at a nail down floor, you're looking at a floating floor, SPC floating, laminate floating. Just get those details of the installation. Remember back at the other slide, underlayments, other components of the floor. And then we're going to look at the manufacturer's instructions or any other industry standards or common practices that would apply to this. And we want to get a copy of this. So now you're going to match up your investigation, the data that you collect from this floor, and the manufacturer's information. I got to tell you, with the amount of claims that I look at, there are times that I leave the house going, I know exactly what the problem is. I collected my data, I collected my information, I know exactly who's responsible. I go back, I read the installation instructions, and I say, oh, well, this is interesting how this is written. Now, the installer didn't do it wrong. The instructions are wrong, and he followed the instructions. So now the manufacturer's on the hook for it. It's rare, but sometimes my investigation will reveal something different. And that's why when we get later on in this program, that you have to be fact-based, based on standards. Now, testing can either be observations or something that you actually test. When I'm teaching new people claims, they overlook the fact that looking at the floor is a test. Visual, sound, smell, feel. I left out taste. But these are observations. This is part of your testing. It's okay. If you're on a grading complaint, what test do? You look at the floor and you're going to compare. On a noisy floor, what test do? You're going to listen for it. Observations can be made. This is an interesting one because a lot of people will question this. Can be made from a standing position, can be made close up, or under magnification. So our normal industry standards is from a standing position. But can you go close up to investigate it? Yes. But determination of acceptability is from a standing position. And I don't like when manufacturers and other claims get in and says, well, I got a floor that's delaminating and there's a little corner lifting up, but I can't see it from a standing position. But hold on, when you get close up and you're under magnification and you see that if there's a delamination, it doesn't matter if it's from a standing position. It's still a defect that's occurring. The rule of standing position actually came from the sand and finish world. And we've adopted it over to the pre-finished products and into our other family of products as well. Testing can be measurements taken with a scale, with a tape measure. That's a test, or any result from a testing instrument. So recapping this slide, a lot of people think testing has to be from a testing device. No, not necessarily. These are all tests. Tests or observations. Now, the next 3 slides here, I'm going to leave up for about 10 seconds because these are sample tools that you might want to put in your toolbox to have for inspections, investigations, claims. I'm not going to go through each one because that's a whole other course you guys got to come on if you want to learn how to inspect. And, you know, what is a clock tape measure for? What is a screwdriver for? What is a paper clip for? Sorry, I've only given 45 minutes to an hour for this presentation, so I can't get to answer every question on what's on here. If anybody has any questions at the end or want to reach out to me afterwards, I'm always here to help.
And as always, this session's being recorded, so you can pick it up at your leisure. Just go to nfca.ca and you'll find the recording.
Yeah, I thank you for that, and that's good to remember. Yeah, these are some meters. We've got your moisture meters, 2 different styles. A hammer probe is actually an attachment for a meter. Don't put your wood meter on a concrete floor. It's a different meter. Then you got the ASTM test. And then I wrote in data logger. Now, I'm super keen. I'm super excited about these data loggers. I've had a couple I've used over the times. Wagner's coming out with a new one called Sentry, a Sentry data logger. Sorry, I can't get that to focus. A Sentry data logger. It's about the size of a small cell phone, a little bit bigger than a credit card, and you actually install it into the floor. Now, the thing only costs 150 bucks. If you're putting in a $5,000, $10,000 floor, now you've got a smart floor. Now the floor, you hook it to Wi-Fi, and anywhere in the world on your phone, you can see what the moisture content and relative humidity is in that home. So when the floor fails, you're loaded with data on what that floor was subjected to. Is it reasonable for a builder to put this in every single house? I don't think so. But if you're doing something that's contentious, something that's a little bit pricey, something that you're concerned about, $150 is a cheap insurance policy. So there's pretty good data loggers out there.
How often do you get those? How often do you get those big jobs where the builder only wants you to put half the floor in and come back in a month and finish the rest off? And when you arrive back after a month, the first half of the job is now shrunk or is showing signs of environmental conditions being not quite right. And wouldn't it be great to have one of those buried in the floor so you can go back and check your data?
Yeah, that's a great example, Chris. I thank you for bringing that up because, yeah, the evidence is in the floor. It got subjected to dry conditions, wet conditions, but how do we prove it? Who's at fault? There are portable data loggers where you can just sit in the room, or sometimes I put it on the wall somewhere. But then you get somebody touching it, somebody going, "Oh, what's this stupid thing?" And they take it down. This is buried in the floor. And I think the battery is good for 8 years. I'm not sure on that, maybe 7 years. And if your floor is good for 7 years, I think you're good to go. But I did a hotel once, and they couldn't figure out what's going on. And in this hotel, my data logger revealed on Friday night, it shuts off. The hotel was being built, and the HVAC system shut off on Friday night and turned back on Monday morning. Nobody would tell me that. But my data logger said, "Well, look what happens on the weekend. You guys tell me everything's fine and there's no environmental conditions." But my data logger revealed that somebody set a timer, and I was able to nail it. It made the inspection go away. Any other questions on the meters? Chris, anybody? Okay.
Well, I just want to I will bring up one. Clayton just commented that Clayton Shull in the chat box here. I should remind everybody, if you've got a question, you can just type it into the chat box at the bottom of your screen.
And or we'll be doing it at the end of the presentation as well. So if you want to hold your question down.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. He says, with regards to hygrometers, I've found that some thermo hygrometers that consumers have can be 20 to 30% different than one that is calibrated and checked with, say, a calibration with a calibration check salt.
So good. Any meter needs to be calibrated. Whether it's inspectors should get theirs factory calibrated, a certificate of calibration, versus just doing your own test, making sure that it works. Good question, Clayton, because I think most of us that have been on claims before, we go out, 6 different hygrometers are sitting on the counter, and they're all different, and they could be out by 10%. So which one's right? So that's interesting. You should get it calibrated. You can calibrate them with salts, which is a little container of salt water that knows what calibration it should be. You can have a third party test them, or just test it against other meters. I find that a lot of inaccurate relative humidity readers, hygrometers, are out there, just as much as moisture meters that are not accurate. So do know your equipment, and do know that it has an expiry on it, because they're only good for about 2 years.
Bert Green, he says Wagner C555 and plus 950, etc., can be calibrated on site.
Well, yeah, some meters have calibration, and that's it. I don't like the word calibration for that. I like the word that you checked your meter, but they use the word calibration. So that is correct. You can do that. Sorry, I don't have it with me right here. I didn't think I'd be showing it. Delmhurst has it too. You can put the 2 pins to here. It should say 15%. You put the 2 pins to here. It should say 22%. You know your meter's working. Wagner has calibration plates. Wagner only makes non-invasive meters, and they have a calibration plate that they can put it on, and it'll tell you if it's working or not. They're great checks. I think you should be doing them. I don't think the average person needs to send theirs out and get a certificate, but I think the inspector does, because you're a professional. You're getting paid to get the right information back.
Exactly right, yeah.
Photography. Photography has always been part of our reports, has been for years and years and years. But what people are expecting now in photography, overall room scenes, take overall pictures. It says 1,000 words, overall room scenes. Use lighting to capture a photo of concern. So you'll see some pictures in reports where the cast of lighting is coming across to show that the floor's cut, to show that the floor, it highlights the issue. Get close-ups. That's using magnification. We can do photography under magnification. In your photos, use props to show scale. Use a pen, use a coin, use an arrow, use a ruler, use anything that shows scale on a problem. Write notes on painter's tape or a piece of paper or sticky note, and show that in your pictures. One example that I do is when I'm doing a nailing schedule check and there's no nails, and I take a picture of all my magnets. I don't want someone to look at the photo and say, well, the guy forgot to put his magnets there. So I'll put some tape or a sticky note and write no nails. So the person looking at the picture now knows, well, he didn't forget. He's trying to show us where he didn't find any fasteners.
Yeah.
Get before and after pictures. Yes, go ahead.
I was just going to say, one close up and then step back 10 feet and get a bigger picture. It shows location very well of an issue.
It does. It does. And then you can still select what pictures you want to put in the report. What I didn't put on the slide here is take clear pictures. Sometimes you might have to take 2 or 3 pictures and select which one comes out clear. It is a little bit of a pet peeve of mine when I see an inspector putting blurry pictures or pictures of his toes into a report. If you're going to do destructive testing, I like to do it like a storybook. You get before, you do the destructive testing, part way out, and then whatever it's going to reveal, you'll have a series of pictures of it coming out. A video would be quite long because it might take you half an hour to do the destructive testing. Moisture testing, we already covered this a little bit, a hygrometer for the relative humidity. Also, I'm going to make everybody here a little bit more professional than they were an hour ago. Don't use the word humidity. Humidity means nothing unless you put the word relative in front of it. The humidities that we're mentioning in our site is relative to the temperature. If you tell me it's 30%, that means nothing unless you tell me if it's 10 degrees or 30 degrees. I need a temperature with that humidity. We've already discussed this. Destructive testing. Sometimes it needs to be done to verify what's in the floor. Defective material might need to be removed to send off to the manufacturer or any third party for lab testing. Us inspectors, we do this all the time. Manufacturers usually like to get a piece of the product. Sometimes it could be leftover uninstalled material, but sometimes you need something out of the floor. If you're not comfortable in doing it, you can have an installer present, cause as least damage as possible. If you come in my other training, I got all sorts of tricks in the book, how you can actually get underneath the floor, see what's underneath there without doing any destructive testing. I even can teach how to pull a fastener from the floor without damaging the floor. But sorry, you have to come another training for that. Now, destructive testing is subjective. What you might think is destructive and not comfortable in doing, I might be comfortable in doing. That's okay. It is a personal thing where I've even had discussions with inspectors to say, well, is a pin meter just destructive? Well, it could be. You got a flat, smooth fill, shiny floor, and you're going to stick a pin meter. Yeah. You got a hand scrape wire brush floor, not so much. But what's comfortable to you? Are you comfortable unscrewing something to have a look, a vent, a transition, a closet track, and put it back? If you're not comfortable, don't do it. If you're comfortable, try to do it. Is it destructive? Not necessarily. Research. After we come back with all our data from the claim, we want to research all aspects of this. We want to look at the manufacturers, any literature from the manufacturers, installation, warranty, online marketing, and sometimes their marketing will contradict their warranty or installation. Yeah, I'm dealing with this floor right now where they're telling us that it's waterproof, but they're denying the claim because of a moisture issue. Okay, we'll see that. If it's not written, you're allowed to refer to other industry standards as long as they're applicable. We don't want to put any wood standards onto our vinyl and laminate products. Do focus on the timeline. Sometimes your answer's there. Or call a colleague or a professional you know. The good inspectors in this industry work with a network of other inspectors. They're not afraid to call up another inspector and say, hey, what do you think of this? This is what I'm dealing with. A builder can do this. A dealer can do it as well. Call somebody and say, here's the facts that I have. What do you think's happening? Because I think it's important that you get it right. Your conclusion. This is where the investigation is complete. You've got all your facts collected. You've done all your research, and you now decide who's responsible for the claim. It could be a split responsibility, so don't go looking to see which one you're going to blame. Remember, it could be different responsibilities, and reply to them. Reply as soon as possible and in full explanation. And I do help people on what to write. So I think a manufacturer and a builder might write something different than a dealer. And don't try to copy a third-party independent inspection if you're the manufacturer replying to something. Because a manufacturer can fit all that on one piece of paper. I've been out to the house. This is what I saw. I'm going to get to these slides anyways. Closing the claim. Here we are. You get your required data. You've got all your testing. You've done your research. Your letter, the components that you're going to reply with is, what concern are you replying to? I'm replying to a squeaky floor. I'm replying to a grading complaint. A brief description of the floor. This is one of our luxury products. It's a wood floor. A description of it. The history was the floor was installed here. They moved in. The concern started here. We went out on such and such date. I did some testing. Here are my results of my tests. And the instructions say it's supposed to be nailed this way. My testing showed it was nailed a different way. Conclusion, installation related. Conclusion, homeowner related. They were supposed to be washing it with an approved cleaner. They use a vinegar, mop, and water, and that's why the finish is dulling. So you're bringing your conclusion together, all with facts, all fact-based, no opinion, based on what you've collected and what you've researched. Now, we're getting to the end here where we're going to talk about whatever you put in writing, whether you're an independent inspector, manufacturer, dealer, you have now given a piece of paper with your company letterhead on it, and all this previous information in this slide, and it could end up in court. You don't know that. It could end up in other meetings, discussions, mediation, settlement conferences, and court's an interesting place to be because court has rules on evidence. But it is an actual fact in Canada, 95% of cases that are filed with the courts do not go to trial. Only 5% do. They get solved prior to going to court. And it's usually because in a mediation or a settlement conference, somebody will say, you have a low probability of winning. Reconsider this. And then they do. So it could go to small claims, superior court, and these acronyms mean License Appeals Tribunal or Builders Arbitration Forum. Basically, it's a form of court, but it's a specialty court. So anything that you say, anything that you've written, any of your involvement could end up here. So let's recap. Go back to the beginning when I said start a file. You don't know where you're going to end up. All your data can be in that file. You don't know if 6 months later they're going to phone and go, well, did you know that the homeowners disagree and have hired a lawyer? No, I threw away my notes. Don't do that. Keep them. So here we are. Oh my gosh, look at the time, Chris. Impressive.
You are good.
Time. That's luck. That's luck. So if anybody has any questions, you can either unmute yourself and ask or type it in and Chris will read it out to us. I hope this information is valuable to people. And I hope you apply it. I hope you take those simple steps that I gave you at the beginning of this presentation to actually implement next time you go on a claim. And you're going to be more relaxed, more comfortable dealing with a claim than stressed out and going to the site visit.
Yeah, and I'd say we welcome calls for help at NFCA if you're, on site dealing with questions that you're not sure how to answer. Feel free to call us, and if we have the answer, we'll share. Or we have good resources in the backgrounds who can sometimes help too. But the idea is to help.
Another good resource, and I don't know if people know about this. There's a website out there called Floor Detective, floordetective.com. And the fellow behind this, David Zach, who put this together, has a defect page. So you can go on his website. I think you need a subscription to go into the deeper parts of this website. But if you're dealing with a wood claim, you can look up cupping, noisy floor, DLAM finish issues. You're dealing with an SPC floor, go into vinyl, curling, doming, broken joints. And he has this website that has all these defects written in it. You can also find inspectors on that website too by typing in your location. So that's floordetective.com. And I think he's done a good job with that.
Now, Floor Detective also has a Facebook page where it's more current and not just static information. So you have a concern, then you get different responses from different inspectors.
Yes.
Live.
Yeah, quite a few on that Facebook page to answer questions and to look after your claim needs, your dispute needs. But I think it's important to get it right. I think it's important that you go in there and it's fact-based, not a theory, not an opinion, and you're not pointing fingers. I'll give you an example of a non-fact-based claim. The builder replies or the manufacturer replies, well, it's humidity related. Okay, humidity related. Didn't even go in and get a humidity reading. You don't know what it is, but you said it's humidity related. Go in and collect the data. It's simple. Go in and look at the floor. Sometimes your information is in the floor. We still deal with moisture related issues, but I think more and more of our products are less to do with moisture, or they can handle the moisture tolerances, ranges that we're going to give it.
Drew, let me fire another question here. You from
Yes,
Cheryl. I like this question. How do you handle agitated customers on site?
Next week in Las Vegas, I'm going to a course on how to handle angry customers.
This question's near and dear to me because this is how I started out in the flooring industry, is like kind of like the complaints guy, and I learned. Well, you can probably tell I got a bit of an English accent going on. The first thing I did was I put on my best Queen's English. That always helped. Don't ask me why, but the other thing I did, though, this is what I'd recommend, is always let the customer talk and get it out of their system until they start to hear themselves talk, and that they've now realized, I've done all the talking here. Maybe I should let this rep give me their opinion. If you allow them to talk, you're sort of showing that you're reasonable and you're there to listen to their complaint before you judge.
I think that's a good idea. Now that's handling people, but to answer Cheryl's question, you got this, some people get really, really out of hand. Let them vent, let them get it out. Don't ever stop them from talking. But the easiest thing is, I'm here to help. I'm sorry what happens in the past. I had no control over that. I'm sorry it got to this level, but now that I'm here, and it could be you, now that they brought you the manufacturer, you the dealer, you can just put them to rest going, I'm here to help you. And it might be enough to get you out of the house because they might not like the answer afterwards.
You get them believing that you actually care, then they calm down. If they don't, they're being unreasonable.
How about the deflection on, I understand your position. I understand your feelings.
Yeah.
Even though your inside breath is saying, I don't care about your feelings. I care about the facts in this floor. But you empathize with them. And we deal with these people all the time. They're automatically angry when you show up the door. And I've got some funny stories of angry people that I've dealt with. And you just have to deflect it. You just have to say, I understand, and I'm here to help. And hopefully we can get you an answer. Good question, though, Cheryl.
Yes. Another question. Art V says, do you have a picture of a deflection meter? What is a deflection meter?
Okay, a deflection meter shows movement. So, no, I'm sorry, I don't have a picture. If you'd like to email through Chris, and I can get you a picture of one. Basically, when you want to show a floor moving, either deflection this way or independent deflection when two boards are moving separately, you set up a meter on top and it actually gives you a number or a measurement saying it's moving 15 thousandths of an inch or it's moving 6 millimeters.
Useful because there presumably there are standards governing deflection, allowable tolerance.
Right. Well, it depends what the deflection is. Deflection means movement. So to the meter, to answer the person's question, a deflection meter is giving you a number or a measurement. Now, can you do this without a deflection meter? You can set up a straight edge, take a before measurement and then a measurement under load, and then go, okay, well, at rest it was flat. When somebody stands on it, it goes down 5 millimeters, and you're showing a floor that deflects down. If you've got a broken joint, you can put a straight edge across that joint. It's going to show it even. With finger applied pressure, you push down on one side, your photo is going to show that it's now open. So instead of having a meter to use that, it can be done without a meter. Less for you to buy, less for you to carry around. But I do appreciate the question of, hey, you see something, you saw something I mentioned, and you're interested in what it is. But
Great.
feel free to reach out if you'd like a picture of that.
Good stuff. We have a good question here from Amanda. Hello, dealer here in Alberta, says Amanda. With the SPC vinyl plank failures issue that I'm sure everyone is aware of, big time. In the she's been specific in the prairies. I think it's countrywide, maybe worldwide. I don't know. Who do you suggest as an independent inspector in our province? That would be Alberta for SPC.
Well, I am not going to answer that question because I am not going to suggest any particular inspector over another inspector. But I am going to suggest to you, and this is a great segue into what I'm saying. Most people are aware of the National Wood Flooring Association, NWFA, that certifies inspectors. They're only certified for wood. That's all that NWFA teaches and governs. If you need a certified inspector, they have to be certified in that discipline of flooring, certified in laminate, certified in your vinyls. I am not certified in carpet. I do not look at carpet. I do not do that. So I don't think I could go out on a carpet inspection. So you have to find someone who's certified in that discipline. And that's going to be based on your area, who you have, and you might have to bring in somebody from outside your area.
Well, let me, Drew, if I can weigh in, I can answer this by saying you can phone NFCA, we'll assign someone on your behalf. The benefit of doing that is you disconnect any bias. If you're not concerned about bias, because if you buy that service from an inspector directly, then obviously there's that implied bias. Then you can go to, like, Drew, your ITS service, inspector training service. Do you put on your website a search engine for people you've certified?
We do have a search engine, and so do the other governing agencies. So does the NWFA. So Inspector Training Services has certified inspectors on site, but we only list people certified with Inspector Training Services. Floor Detective has all inspectors. So that's where you can go and say, okay, I'm in Red Deer, I'm in Edmonton, and give me a 100-mile radius, a 200-mile radius of any inspector. And you're going to get all NWFA, ITS, FCTIS, any inspector that's certified by any agency will be on his website. But I do understand the challenges that you have out there in Alberta, and they're having them in other places as well, where, you know, one inspector is okay, but he's not available, or he's already been on the claim, and you've tried using this other guy and didn't get a very good report. Perhaps these guys need to come on training. I don't know.
Let me just we'll finish this question off by saying, Amanda, if you call NFCA office, we'll put you in touch with someone. We do know a few people in Alberta that are very good at what they do. So
yeah, I don't want to be the guy to recommend or discredit somebody else.
Yeah, 100% true. Well, what else have we got? Bunch of compliments.
There's an individual that says, where can I get more information on calibration with salt on an RH meter?
That can be found on the online. It can be found with most moisture meter companies or the manufacturer of the hygrometer. There are companies that sell just the salts and the instructions on how to do that. I don't know if every single hygrometer can go through that test, but they are available out there. I think Ranger has them. What's that other company out there that we use that has them? But you can find them online and you get them sent to you.
All right. Drew, that
even
concludes the questions.
If you buy a new hygrometer, sorry, Chris, even if you buy a new hygrometer, it's not necessarily been tested and working. They produce these in the factory, they put them in a box, and they send them out to you. Yeah. But you could get one right off the bat that's brand new and not working.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know I just scared everybody now that they're going to check their meters.
Assume nothing. Yeah. Okay. Great. well, Drew, if you could unshare your screen at this point, and I'll just